This is NTV.
My youth, Mkwarada, right? This conversation is all about you, your rights, your life, your future. And given I still feel I fall under that demographic of youth, our rights, our lives, our future. That is O3 Plus. And that is what we are discussing on this evening's edition of the Nation Leadership Forum. I should start with the youth on our panel this evening, and that is Charlotte Wairimu Ruto. How are you this evening, Charlotte? We'll hear from her in a little bit. I'm also joined by two professors in studio. That is Professor Walter Jaoko from the University of Nairobi. Good to have you with us. We're also joined by Professor Hazen. Did I get that right? Hubert Hazen from the...
Almost
says,
perfect.
Yes, I got it right. Almost perfect. Close enough? All right, I'll make sure I'll work on Hazen. I'll work on my pronunciation in the course of the conversation. That is Professor Hubert Hazen from UNESCO. And we're also joined by somebody who comes to us all the way from Thika, and that is the Deputy Dean of Students. We are discussing matters youth this evening, and that is Purity Thuo, and she is joining us, or rather she is the Deputy Dean of Students for the Mount Kenya University. All right, I did mention O3, did I not? Let's hear directly from the Regional Director for UNESCO, that is the Regional Director for East Africa, Professor Hazen. Could you tell us a little bit about O3 Plus, and perhaps what are the motivating factors behind it?
Yeah, thank you, Olive. I believe we're touching on a very important subject tonight. O3, as you said, stands for, that's the short title. The little bit longer title is Our Lives, Our Rights, Our Future. So it speaks to young people. The main subject, the main focus is on health and well-being of these young people, and we have to recognize that young people go through important transitions. It is from childhood to teenage. It is from teenage to adulthood. And these transitions are difficult. We, at our age, we may have forgotten, but there are challenges, and especially challenges relating to health and well-being. So the basis of the O3 Plus, and I will explain the plus in a minute, is really the O3. So we have a program for several years in place in the whole continent, actually. It's called the O3, again, our rights, our lives, our future. And it focuses on basic education, mostly on the secondary levels. And it addresses the issues of health and well-being. Just to give a very significant reminder of the COVID and the impact that the lockdowns had, also on the mental health of young people in particular. Young people are not used to be locked down, correct? So it has an impact on mental health. But also COVID reminded us there is diseases out there. So health and hygiene, education is very important. The basis of the O3 several years ago was, in fact, the HIV pandemic. And to create more knowledge and skills and awareness on HIV infections, the way of transmission, and have young people prepared. So that was the basis, and there is no more powerful way to address issues of health and well-being than the education system. The majority of population passes at one stage or another through an educational system for several years, for longer periods, and therefore to inject via the education system these skills and knowledge and awareness on health and well-being is very strategic. And on HIV, because that was the start of the program, I always say this, in the absence of a cure, education is the only vaccine available. So we can only be aware and develop the awareness and the skills to avoid infection. But then from there, the program moved on and it broadened, and it considers now issues, so in the education system, issues on gender-based violence. Let's face it, it is there. On early and unintended pregnancies. And also in many African countries, still a challenge, child marriage. So these issues are the broader issues around young age people and that they face. Now that's the O3 program, active in 32 countries in the continent, many partners joining. This is a very broad program. So now what is the plus? And now the secret comes. It is that we move to the higher and tertiary segment, young people who move to university, because they again, and that's that other transition from teenage to adulthood, and the first time being out of your protected area and your home base, moving into universities. So that is the focus, health and well-being for young students in university.
All right, thank you. And you raised the issue of HIV, right? That was O3 broadly when the program first kicked off. And it's interesting that you mentioned that because, as I said, also in studio with us is the CAVI director, and that is Walter Jaoko. Professor Walter Jaoko is, you know, over the last year, a lot of our focus has been on the COVID-19 pandemic. Is HIV still a concern? If we look at some of the data coming out of the National AIDS Control Council, we are seeing about a third of new infections are the demographic of between 15 and 24 years of age. So is it still a concern? Should we still be concerned about this?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, actually, HIV remains a major concern, especially for the continent of Africa. As you rightly say, the age group that is most affected is the age group between 15 and 24 years. And that is where we find a lot of HIV transmission taking place. And that is the age group that is also in our tertiary institutions and universities. So you are right that HIV should never be forgotten. The problem with us human beings is when there is something that is current, we tend to forget the older problems that we had. But HIV continues to be a major problem. And the beauty is that HIV is preventable. And so all we need to do as we wait for a cure, scientists believe that the solution to ending the HIV pandemic will be by development of a vaccine. And as Professor has indicated, in the absence of the vaccine, therefore, education is the interim that we need to focus on.
Yes,
but HIV is a problem.
It remains a concern.
Yep.
All right, and we'll get into RADA, because when I started, I asked my youth, Mkorada. I know the hashtag tonight is Youth Tuko RADA, as well as hashtag O3+, and not forgetting the NLF hashtag, that is the Nation Leadership Forum. And Ms. Thor, I'll come to you now. Over the course of the pandemic, we've had concerns about gender-based violence and unintended pregnancies. What has your institution, for instance, done about it? Because you're one of the partners or one of the beneficiary organizations as far as O3+ is concerned. That launch, by the way, for your information, is taking place on Thursday next week, the 30th, if I'm not mistaken. And that is the O3+ pilot between University of Nairobi and Mount Kenya University. But perhaps, Ms. Thor, you can speak to the concern around gender-based violence as well as unintended pregnancy over the course of the pandemic. What are you doing as an institution? What potential or what opportunities does the O3+ partnership present in that regard?
Okay, thank you so much, Olive, for having me. Yes, there has been a concern, so much concerning unintended pregnancies. Just like the better part of last year, the biggest concern was about teenage pregnancies. But you find that at the university level, we have those who are over 18. And what happens with unintended pregnancy is that it is likely to cause a disruption in their studies. And also, it's also likely to cause some conflict between the students and the guardians or the sponsors. So what we do when it happens, and when it happened, when we found the students who came to the university when they were pregnant, we have facilities whereby we take care of prenatal cares. And we also engage the sponsors or the parents or the guardians in that matter so that they can be able to take responsibility when the student gives birth, so that maybe we allow the student to take an academic leave, maybe say 6 months or even 1 year, depending on the health of the patient, of the parent, and then thereafter they can be able to come back and go on with their studies. But with that, also we do preventive measures, and this basically it's about offering them reproductive health services in our clinic. We also are in partnership with like the Carevo 5 and other service providers around. But key among them is prevention. But when it happens, we support the students so that there's minimal disruption. So concerning gender-based violence, yes, this is happening. It is happening in the society, especially due to COVID-related factors. And we find that the society, we have been reading in the media all that's happening due to mental health issues. And sometimes this also happens to students who probably could be cohabiting or who are just into a relationship. And what we do is that we engage students in different forums. We also have our intelligences on the ground. And by intelligences, I am talking about we use the student leaders, we use the other leaders from different clubs, religious group leaders. We also have a direct contact with the external service, what we call hostel providers, so that in case they notice a relationship that is going towards being violent, they inform us so that we can intervene early enough. And in case a criminal offense occurs, that one now is handled by the law enforcement. But otherwise, we have measures in place. We involve our students in different forums so that they are aware that if a relationship is abusive, one can leave the relationship. And also trying to tell, especially the boy child, that you do not have to hit somebody's daughter. If you're no longer interested in her, just leave her.
Mm. And also vice versa, I'm sure. Some would argue. Charlotte, I would be remiss if I did not give you voice on this subject matter, given this is all about your demographic, the youth. Charlotte, a lot of us assume at the point at which you're joining a tertiary institution of higher learning or a vocational institution, you know, if you do not have unprotected sex, we assume that if you find yourself in a situation, first of all, to prevent HIV and also unintended pregnancy. But is that always the case? Is it a correct assumption? How prepared were you, for example, when you left high school and transitioned into university? How prepared were you? And by this, Charlotte is from the University of Nairobi. How prepared were you in regard of these, where these things are concerned, these subject matters?
Thank you all for the opportunity. First of all, joining university has a lot of mixed reactions. When we join the university, a lot of people have expectations from home, from families, from even the villagers and the people who send us to the university. When I joined in the year 2018, when I joined the university, there was a lot of freedom. I encountered a lot of freedom that I had not gotten it before when I was at home previously. So I remember in the university, you have no one to tell you, you're not supposed to be doing this, or you're supposed to be doing this. You get a sense of self-responsibility that you're supposed to be making your own decisions. So for example, when I joined University of Nairobi 2018, there's no one who used to tell me, you're not supposed to be going to discos, you're not supposed to be going to clubs. it was just a self-responsibility, a decision that I was supposed to be making alone. So you see this transition from teenagehood to young adulthood can be a little bit confusing to our juniors, the freshmen who join university. Like yesterday, I was actually orientating my students who had joined university for the first time. And each time we brought the topic of sexual discussions or anything to do with mental health, you could see them bowing their heads down, meaning that wherever they came from, they had not been exposed to these conversations. No wonder they were bowing their heads down because they were not confident about talking about these matters. And it's a high time that we find it comfortable to be speaking about sexual education, because these are the things that affect us majority in the university. And I can tell you a greater number of students drop out because of the challenges that come from these talks that could have been done. So like yesterday, we were only orientating them, and okay, we were mentioning the sexual parts. We used to mention the sexual parts and also the mental health, but we never really dug into it. And I can proudly say that in majority of the universities, they don't follow up students after to ensure they have transcended well in the university in the years after. So as a student leader and also as a student in the university, I can recommend that this initiative, once it's enforced in the university, let it be a way of giving students a chance of interacting sexually and even mentally as they are proceeding in the university. Because you find a lot of wrong decisions being done. Not majority of the students when they join university, academically, they're always straight up. But when it comes to emotionally and everything, they are a bit backwards. And it's because we are afraid of touching on the important subjects like sexually and mentally challenges. And no wonder if you look at demographics right now, you find a lot of youths actually committing suicide because of mental health. And it's a concern in Kenya. And there's one time even our media stations actually ran that story of why are the suicidal tolls up there? And it was because there's a lot of frustrations, and it's because we never gave room of these topics to be actually visited when students were joining the university. So as for me as a student leader, I will like, at least when a student is joining, they be given a chance to be followed up on how they are doing, on the decisions they are making, at least not making the decision for the students, but actually be guided on the decisions they're supposed to make.
All right. So based on what I'm getting from Charlotte is that there's a lot of peer-to-peer sharing of information. How accurate that information is, well, I stand to be guided on that. But when we come back, we'll hear from Professor Hubert on why it's important to engage these universities from the level up, because what I'm getting from Charlotte is there is that peer-to-peer engagement on subject matters to do, I mean, on the issues to do with sexual rights and health, but how can the management come in to foster conversation on these issues, and how beneficial will that be? We take a break. I'll be back, or we'll be back on the other side.
Unataka kumake dream zake zikam true, tutawak na wewe kuzitimiza kwa urahisi. Hii ndio Africanacity. Hii ni Absa.
Today tastes like a piece of the action, and it never tasted this good.
With the Stay Soft refill, saving money is as easy as snip, pour, mix with water, and shake. Stay Soft refill. It's 2 liters of Stay Soft for up to 30% less.
What's your beautiful?
My essence and my energy. My natural glow and my confidence.
My beautiful is being me.
Beauty Month is back. Reveal your beautiful with amazing discounts and gifts of up to 33% off 400 ml Nivea body lotions in participating stores near you. Be you. Be beautiful.
Glovo is the app that delivers anything you want in minutes. Like your favorite kahawa, Ikiwa Moto. Or some cuckoo that will make you go cuckoo. Shopping just in time to finish your recipe. Ama, some diapers before it's too late. Download the app and order anything. We deliver in minutes.
Kenya is a young nation with about 75% of its population being under the age of 35 years. As young people transition from high school to institutions of higher learning away from home, they are faced with a myriad of challenges. These include early pregnancies, HIV infection, drug and substance abuse, gender-based violence, and mental health issues, among others. It's on this basis that UNESCO, University of Nairobi, and Mount Kenya University will launch a partnership to implement a project on health and well-being for young people in tertiary institutions on 30th September 2021. That will be covered live by NTV. The O3 Our Rights, Our Lives, Our Future Plus project will enhance institutional capacities, knowledge sharing, and partnership aimed at promoting students' health and well-being, as well as creating a safe environment for them in campuses. Let's all support young people's health and well-being, since they are the future.
KMRC's objectives are aligned with the government's affordable housing pillar of the Big Four agenda. Visit any of the participating financial institutions today and start your home ownership journey. Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company, unlocking liquidity for affordable housing.
Thank you for staying, Rada. Right, we are discussing our rights, our lives, our future, and that is with regard to the health and well-being of the youthful population that populates our institutions of higher learning. All right, I'll start with the Regional Director of UNESCO, and that is Professor Hubert Hazen. So I asked this question of Charlotte. Often we assume that when students are joining institutions of higher learning, they're equipped with information and knowledge on how to protect themselves from unintended pregnancies, how to protect themselves from HIV, and how to respond to instances of gender-based violence. At the point at which you were saying that this is not necessarily the case, like, what informed your decision to take up this project?
Mm-hmm. Yes, what Charlotte said is true. This is the daily experience of young people, whether they are in university or outside. We have some data that underpin this. So let me share this. If you look at the age group, 15 to 24 years, we found out that 45% of the females out of that population had insufficient knowledge on HIV and AIDS. So it is about what is it, what kind of a disease is it, it is viral, how does it transmit, how do I protect? Insufficient knowledge. For the male part of that population group, that figure is still 33%. We also have facts and figures on HIV/AIDS. We know that globally, 40% of all the new infections are from that particular age group. So the 15 to 25, 24 years old. So that age group represents 40% of all new infections. In Eastern Africa, that figure is even 43%. And out of this 43%, we have 29% female and 13% male. So what you also see here is the vulnerability for females is much, much higher of catching the infection. Now, these are percentages, and they are often too abstract, and people think, well, okay, a percent. Let's put that in real figures. So what it means for this region is 4,000 new infections for girls at that age group every week. Every week, 4,000.
Wait, is this HIV infection?
HIV, new HIV infections in that age group, and this is the female portion.
And that is in Kenya, in East Africa?
This is East Africa.
East Africa.
And for the male portion of that population, of that age group, it is still 1,700. So again, you see that difference, and the vulnerabilities being higher for the girls and the women. Kenya today has about 1.5 HIV positive cases, but out of those, 12% is in that particular age group, and that percent is growing. So that age group of 15 to 24. Let me also share some data on teenage pregnancy, because that is also very telling. So 1 in 5 girls in the age group 15 to 19 years old is either pregnant or already a mother, 15 to 19 years old. So we're talking 20% of that population in that age group. There's a report from a colleague agency of the UN, UNFPA, and they did a study they looked at a period of 1 year, 12 months, between mid-2016 to mid-2017. And that is for Kenya. 380,000 pregnancies in that age group, in the age group of, mind you, 10 to 19 years. Yes, I say 10 to 19 years. If you go down to the age group 10 to 14, we're still talking about 29,000 pregnancies in 12 months. That's amazing. That is telling. Now, the President Policy Strategy Unit, a report from this year, and they looked at the COVID period. So the school closures that happened last year, and they saw that 160,000 teenage girls married at that time. So that is also telling. A study on gender-based violence that we did in several countries in the SADC region, including Tanzania, Zimbabwe, Malawi, it showed that between 18 and 27% of the female respondents to that study, and they were enrolled in polytechnics and universities, they had faced forced sex within an academic year, 18 to 27%. So this is really telling, and that, in summary, is the main reason why this project is so important.
And Professor Joko, in your experience, you were part of a team that developed something called RADA, an app for University of Nairobi students, and using the app, they can access information on sexual and reproductive health. They have access to a hotline. They can get access to information on psychological counseling. For instance, what informed the development of the app?
Yeah, thank you. RADA, maybe for the viewers who might not be familiar with it, is a mobile app. It was developed by University of Nairobi students with funding from UNESCO, for which we are eternally grateful. The story behind RADA was the data that we gathered in a survey about 4 or 5 years ago of university students, where we found an amazingly high proportion of university students were HIV infected. There were a disproportionate number of women who were getting pregnant. And we also found that a number of those women were, to continue with their education, were procuring abortion. We also looked at the issues of drug and alcohol abuse, and a significant proportion of those university students were taking various kinds of drugs, including marijuana and even hard drugs like heroin and cocaine. So the question we asked ourselves is, how can we address these problems? And we approached University of Nairobi students, and after brainstorming, because remember there is an adage in HIV advocacy that says, nothing for us without us, that you cannot get solutions from outside and then impose them to a particular community that has a particular problem. So if you'd identify a problem, the natural and most effective way is to involve the people who are facing these problems to be able to identify how to address those problems. And it is the students themselves who came up with the idea that to address university students, you need to use technology. Kenya is one of those countries with a very high proportion of the population having mobile phones and smartphones. And university students have a good proportion of them have smartphones. So we developed, the students themselves were then trained to develop a mobile app, and that is the innovation. And these were students who were not tech savvy. They were from different walks of life, different courses, arts and sciences, and they got a technical expert in IT who was funded by UNESCO, went through software development with these students, and in a record period of, I would imagine, 6 to 8 months, they developed a mobile app and called it Radar. And you repeatedly mentioned Radar. For people who might not know, Radar is slang for being alert. The issue here is that a lot of vices or challenges that university students face is as a result of lack of knowledge. They don't have proper knowledge. Many of them Google, and Google is full of things that are not factual. So we wanted to populate this app with factual information. We involved NACADA. NACADA is the national agency that deals with drugs. So they inputted the information, correct information about drugs. We involved NASCOP. NASCOP is the national agency that deals with HIV/AIDS, and they put for us incorrect information about HIV/AIDS, and so on and so forth. So the information, therefore, if a student is struggling where to get the right information to help them deal with all sorts of issues, from drug abuse to HIV/AIDS, pregnancies, mental health issues, Radar is the tool they use.
There's somewhere they can turn to where the information is verified.
Very verified.
To borrow a colloquial term, for that tick that accompanies a verified Twitter account, Facebook, Instagram account. So this is verified information. So I will come to you on the foot traffic and how effective the app has been. But first, Ms. Thuo, you have dealt with students for the last 8 years. In Rwanda, in Kenya, at the Mount Kenya University. So I know the two professors in the studio say there is no knowledge, as much knowledge as we'd imagine there is among this demographic, but we have information at our fingertips. And Professor Joko, I don't know how much access you had to the internet when you first joined the university, but you'd imagine with the proliferation of the mobile phone and access to internet data, people would know these things. Where is the gap?
Okay, thank you, Olive. What I would say is that this is something that the youth say, that this ground is different. And when the students are joining the university or other tertiary colleges, they come with a lot of theory, a lot of expectations, and there are so many things that we have not discussed in our sitting rooms with our children. There are so many things that have not been discussed in churches or in mosques. There are so many things that we were not told in high school. So when we come to the university, we find that we are exposed to a totally different environment. We have people of the same age set. Maybe I came from a single-sex school. All of a sudden now I have these girls and the boys together with the hormones raging and with a lot of freedom. And there are so many things that we have not told them. Like, for example, they want fun. But they have not been told that when you go clubbing and you let off your guards, you are likely to get a day trip. We have not told them that I can get into a relationship with a certain guy, and this guy can leave me and start dating my boyfriend, and I can do nothing about it. We have not told them that there's something they say, ukiacho achika. And this is causing a lot of problem because they are not likely to let go, because already they have become intimate with this person, they have become this close with this person, and they feel like this is their world, and when their world is shattered, there's likely to be mental issues involved. We have not told them that if they go to bash and they get to start abusing alcohol, and they are likely also to get very compromised, and in that compromised state, they can find themselves again engaging in very irresponsible sex. So there are all those very many things at play that we have at this particular level. However, the hope is not lost. That is what I always say, in that these are the people we are entrusting the world to. These are the people who are going to drive the many agendas that we have as a country and as a globe. And that is why UNESCO has come to rescue us on this, because with the O3+ and this particular program being spearheaded even by the youth, because what it is that the program is even, we have very many of our leaders, what I call student leaders, involved in advocacy, so that we can ensure that our students are well informed, so that they can make informed choices, so that even when they get into relationships, because you cannot stop these relationships, they are healthy relationships which do not lead to what we call negative consequences.
All right. And Charlotte, I'd like you to come in at this point. What has been missing? You made reference to same thing Ms. Thuo is talking about. A lot of people come from different backgrounds with all sorts of information, not all of it verified. So what, in your mind, Charlotte, has been missing? What is the missing link?
The missing link is that, I think, is the assuming, the fact that we assume that we know, but actually we have little knowledge about what we know. For example, like right now, as you had asked me earlier when I was joining the university. Yes, when I was joining the university, I actually knew about the sexual reproduction and everything, and I also knew about mental health. But to what extent did I know about mental health and actual the sexual relationships that are in the university? For us, it's a different type of experience. That when you get into the university is when you get to learn and know. But we want to reach in a place whereby all we have to do is prevent the situation before it actually has to happen. And I understand as whatever the prof had already said when Googling and everything. You know, sometimes when you Google about things, Google also brings the side effects and also the things, the way you can do it. It's even in our lecture halls, while we're doing a lot of things, especially right now that we have transcended to online classes, we're always told, be careful on whatever you Google, because this is someone's article and whatever they presumed about the article, but not the actual, whatever you want to know. So the gap, I think the gap has been there because people assume to know whatever happens, but what they actually don't know. Like right now, Prof is actually reading to us the polls on how the pregnancy and everything is going on. And actually we are all surprised because we never knew, but we know teenagers actually get pregnant day in, day out, but we don't know the numbers of how actually the teenagers get affected by those pregnancies. So I really think the gap is, we know it, but how much of the knowledge do we have about it? And that's when I would like even to congratulate Prof and UNESCO for actually inventing the app radar. Looking at the University of Nairobi right now, we are majorly doing online classes. It's even very hard for us to track our students who are actually at home, and we don't know about their mental state, their sexuality, what they are doing. It's very hard for us. But having an app like Radar, we can be able to track our students and look at their progress. Whereas these having dean of students, assistant dean of students, counselors, you have to reach to them physically. Okay, you can call them, but majority of the times, how the university was structured from the beginning, you have to reach to them physically so that they can help you. But having applications like Radar and everything, especially right now whereby we have really transcended to the social media, like we get a lot of details from the social media. Even our classes have gone online. I think such apps are going to help the youths. And if it's confidential, somebody gets confidence even in answering the questions that are actually in the app. And we actually get to know the demographics and everything about the teenagers and the universities and everything that we are trying to implement. Okay. So basically, just think the gap is that people actually know about the sexual experiences, the mental issues, but how much of the information do they actually possess?
Okay.
I think that's the problem.
All right, and Prof. Hubert, I'll come to you now. How effective is, I know you said that education is the next best thing to a vaccine. At least in the case of HIV/AIDS, is not yet a vaccine, although Prof. Jalko and his team are working ardently at that. But can this knowledge stand up to raging hormones, peer pressure? Because I found myself, when I was in university, I knew a lot of these things, but then you can get carried away in the moment and can believe that, oh, this person loves me, it's just me, I trust them. Can this knowledge stand up to that? Peer pressure, raging hormones?
Yeah, I would say alone, it's not enough. So what we need is really what we call a whole campus approach when it relates to the universities and polytechnics. And that's why we need the leadership of these institutions on board. So what this program is about, we're talking here about the project here in Kenya. This is a regional program. So we have this pilot also starting at the same time in Tanzania, in Zimbabwe, in Zambia. So we will also facilitate learning between all these universities in these countries. Imagine in every country we work with some 20 institutions, so we have 80 in total. That means a massive number of students. Just here in Kenya, we are working with the University of Nairobi and the Mount Kenya University together, 100,000 students and learners. But then we need to work also with the teachers, capacity building for teachers, knowing how to integrate in the curriculum subjects on these issues, services and facilities at the campus, at the university, but also a whole awareness and attitude building at the campus, making the campus a safe place to be, advocating continuously. Leading by example, so the vice chancellors, the deans, showing the way and leading by example on these issues and speaking about them, speaking out when there are issues of gender-based violence, for instance. So that is what I mean with the whole campus approach, and that's the experience we're going to take. So it's not simply a little bit of information provision and that will do the job. It is that together with everything else, and that is the O3+.
Right, and I mean, university is all about sharing knowledge of what has worked, and carrying out research and investigating, and, you know, coming up with all these novel solutions. Speaking of novel solutions, Professor Jalko, when did you join university? I'm curious.
As a student or as a
staff?
As
a student.
1980.
1980. And where did you get your information on sexual and reproductive health? And perhaps you can answer, after you answer that, you can tell us how effective Radar has been.
Okay, so information on sexual and reproductive health. I've always been an science student, so I learned that in biology in secondary school, and by the time I came to university, I knew quite a lot about sexuality. RADA has been a successful, it's one of those wonder stories of, I believe, in our age. RADA started in main campus of University of Nairobi, but now we have students using it in all the campuses of University of Nairobi. Not only that, because of its success, this is called RADA UON, RADA University of Nairobi. And again, with the blessing and support from UNESCO, now we've had funding to expand it to other universities. So now RADA is being customized by several universities, 8 universities indeed. And the whole idea is not to make each university a replica of University of Nairobi. So each of those universities have peer leaders amongst the students, and they ask themselves the questions, in addition to what has been developed by University of Nairobi, what are our unique issues that we need to address? And each university therefore develops their own version of RADA. So if, for example, Maseno University develops RADA, they can call it RADA Maseno University. Or Pwani, RADA Pwani, RADA KU, RADA Jomo Kenyatta, and so on. So RADA is a success story, and it is one of those stories that has been learned even beyond this country. So we've presented RADA up in a conference in Botswana. We have presented RADA up in a conference in Rwanda. We have presented RADA up in a conference in Turkey. And there's an excitement. So our vision, our long-term vision, is that RADA will be an app that will not only be of benefit to our students in Kenya, not only to our students in East African region or Africa, but globally, because we've seen the benefit of using the app.
All right, so we take our next break on the Nation Leadership Forum. But when we come back, we hear from Ms. Thuo on reporting mechanisms for things like sexual harassment at the Mount Kenya University, and if perhaps they've borrowed a thing or two from RADA UON. We'll be back.
Get the best value for your money by subscribing today for Classic Bouquet at only 899 shillings for 30 days to enjoy 64 channels. Classic Bouquet. Premium content on Star Times. Subscribe today.
Cooperatives in Kenya continue to change livelihoods. Imarisha Sacco, whose headquarters is in Kericho, has scaled the heights, growing from 100 members to 130,000 members in 43 years. It is a huge circle.
Our asset base is a total of 16 billion Kenya shillings. Our loan portfolio is 12 billion Kenya shillings. Our total deposit from our customers is totaling 11 billion shillings.
Imarisha Sacco has shareholding in Cobank. It's number 5 in Kenya. Its shareholding.
The Keo Plaza is one of the initiatives we supported with an investment of over 350 million.
Kupewa 1 million, nikaendeleza biashara ikakuwa kabisa vizuri, nikapanua nikaweka hardware na kazi ikaendelea vizuri.
Cooperative Bank is working with cooperatives to transform lives.
Today tastes like a piece of the action. And it never tasted this good.
Wonderful, your baby's quite active.
After I discovered Molfix, I rediscovered my baby. She's jumping and running around.
Well, we call that the Molfix Comfort. Thanks to its elastic side bands, Molfix provides freedom of movement for your baby. All babies deserve a high-quality diaper. You should also try Molfix.
Like every mom, you want the best for your child.
Happy birthday.
You feed her mind and nurture her body. And you understand there are times You have to let her pick herself up when she falls. You make sure she knows the joy of sharing happy moments with family. And when everything comes together, you above all others will share the taste of success with her. Blue Band tastes like mama's love.
Hey, now that's hitting the right notes. When life gets boring, we bring out our play. You see, playfulness is in our DNA. It's in the way we move and laugh. It's in the way we walk, the way we rock, and how we just don't stop. You feel me? We add color to everything, to every day and every dish, because the world needs our crazy. We're the different flavors that make life more exciting. We're the ones who add color to every moment. Fanta, color every moment.
Kenya is a young nation with about 75% of its population being under the age of 35 years. As young people transition from high school to institutions of higher learning away from home, they are faced with a myriad of challenges. These include early pregnancies, HIV infection, drug and substance abuse, gender-based violence, and mental health issues, among others. It's on this basis that UNESCO, University of Nairobi, and Mount Kenya University will launch a partnership to implement a project on health and well-being for young people in tertiary institutions on 30th September 2021. That will be covered live by NTV. The O3 Our Rights, Our Lives, Our Future Plus project will enhance institutional capacities, knowledge sharing, and partnership aimed at promoting students' health and well-being, as well as creating a safe environment for them in campuses. Let's all support young people's health and well-being, since they are the future.
What? No, don't worry. We're on our way now.
What happened?
Oh, well, Vanessa had an accident.
What?
She's in the hospital.
How is she?
How would I know? Call a taxi while I grab my jacket or something. Hurry, I'll be right back, okay?
Oh, all right. How is my daughter? The good news is both patients are out of danger. But then, well, one of them suffered very serious injuries and we had to amputate her leg.
Oh, no, Vanessa.
Who is it? Silvana Jaramillo.
Once you receive your digital certificate, you must verify it is valid. It is simple. When you dial *352# or open the Aki verification app, if your certificate is invalid, get in touch with Aki immediately.
Geisha coconut milk and honey, enriched with coconut milk for soft and moisturized skin.
Be strong and last long.
What are you playing at, you idiot? You're a new international striker! Ah! 5-0 down, it's only halftime!
No, coach, it's not me. Something's missing.
Yes, I know that. There's no talent, commitment, skill!
No, that's wrong. It's the formation. We need more on the outside. Where's number 7 or number 11? We're lacking in the flanks.
Speak English!
Coach, we need wingers.
Before the second half, we all drink a Red Bull.
Why's that?
Red Bull gives you wings!
Pepsodent Herbal contains fluoride and calcium that help prevent cavities and strengthen your teeth. Get a 65-gram pack at only 59 Kenya shillings in a duka near you. Natural herbal formula for strong teeth and gums.
Ah, Helen Paul.
Hello, madam. Would you like to join us on this mission?
Yes, but how?
Just one question for you. How do you keep your toilet clean?
I use regular detergent and bleach for washing and removing yellow stains. I've been using it for years.
Oh, madam, the regular detergents and bleach are used for washing clothes. To disinfect your toilet properly, you need Harpic 10X. It is specially made for germs and stains removal. Harpic's thick formula settles on stains and gives 10 times better cleaning compared to regular detergents and bleach.
Wow, now I'm convinced, Helen Paul.
Really?
Yeah.
Now that she's part of the mission, the next house is yours.
I wish I could have soft and glowing skin.
New Geisha Black Soap with activated charcoal to give you soft and glowing skin. New Geisha Black Soap and New Geisha Moringa.
KMRC's objectives are aligned with the government's affordable housing pillar of the Big Four agenda. Visit any of the participating financial institutions today and start your home ownership journey. Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company, unlocking liquidity for affordable housing.
Thank you for staying with us on the Nation Leadership Forum. Remember, our rights, our lives, our future. And I'll start with you, Ms. Thuo, in Thika. I did promise the viewer that I would ask you what reporting mechanisms you have in place for cases of ulisema ukiachwa achika. But what if somebody is rejected and they refuse kuachika, and now it turns into harassment? What reporting mechanisms do you have in place to handle such cases?
Okay, thanks, Olive. What happens is we have our intelligence on the ground. And what I mean by having our intelligence on the ground is that we have very many what people we call the peer counselors. And whenever such a case happens or they notice is a case of a relationship that is going sour and is likely to become violent, they report to us. How do they report to us? Our numbers are with almost every other student. Even in different forums, they can report to the Dean of Students. They can actually call the counselor, then who is able to reach out to the couple. Let me call them a couple for now. And also in response to the same, we have opened a center that we are calling Mind and Beyond Counseling Center, which is supposed to handle all these matters. And we have planned to train every semester 150 students. So that means in 1 year we'll be training 450 who are able to handle cases at their level, and what they cannot be able to handle, they bring it to us, and they can take it to the counselor, and the counselor, after evaluating the case, can actually refer that case to either for psychiatric evaluation if it is thought to be at a level whereby it needs psychiatric care. And of course, there are other cases that we do not just, which require to get into for disciplinary. For example, if it's a case of threat to life, abuse, because this generation can sometimes get very abusive, and that is likely to be, to make the other partner react in a negative way. So we also handle that. And we help them to, we have been able to arrest, by the way, very, very many cases before they become fatal or before they become injurious through those very, very many means. Then the other thing, as probably had said earlier, is that we receive a lot of intelligence again from external health service providers, and external hostel providers. They are our partners. And in case they realize that a certain girl or a certain boy is involved in an abusive relationship, they report to us. So we have a very elaborate reporting system in place, and it is working. But more than that, we try to be as preventive as we can so that it doesn't get there. Through education, through forums, through the clubs, because also clubs are involved in very many activities that also train the students. Through the religious groups, we will, like last semester, we had each religious group holding a forum where they were purely talking about relationships. That is a Muslim, the Christian, the YCS, all of them, they had different forums. And they invited different influential persons or personalities or even teachers, imams, to come and teach them on matters of gender, sexuality, and any other thing on mental health. Okay. So I would say for now we have a working system, and I'm happy again, all 3+ will continue, will help us actually improve on already what we have. Okay. Yeah. So Charlotte, back to you, Olive. Thank you, Ms. Thuo. Charlotte, how important is psychological support when you're at university or a vocational training institution or tertiary institution? How important is psychological support?
Psychological support is very important because the mindset of a student, the way it works, if you are not comfortable in whatever you're doing, then nothing will come right in anything that you're doing. You won't get positive feedback in anything that you're doing. When we were elected into our positions as a new student leaders in the University of Nairobi, our main aim was to tackle the mental health issue because we were getting rising numbers from students and even the globe of how teenagers and youth are becoming suicidal. And we wanted to know what is the root.
Charlotte, I'm struggling to hear you. Can you bring your mic closer, perhaps?
Can you hear me?
All right, let's sort that out, but I'll come back to you and you can explain why that psychological support is so important. Professor Hubert, how does this all promote Sustainable Development Goal 4? That is to do with quality education. I know target 4.3 and 4.4 make reference to access to affordable and quality education, tertiary, be it tertiary, university or vocational. So how does this all move us in that direction?
Yeah, basically in two ways. Let me first say that quality education is not a simple concept of just having a quality curriculum, quality teachers, and a nice classroom. The quality education dimension of learners is very important. And so in two ways there, you see effects if health and well-being issues are not addressed or not serviced or not attended to. So all the issues we refer to tonight, if they occur on a campus with students, well-being is affected. But in the first place, you see then that students' learning drops. Their attention to learning, their focus on learning drops. They're busy with these other things. In a severe case, it leads to drop out. And here again, some facts in Kenya, but now from the basic education. When the schools reopened in October last year, some 375,000 children didn't go back to school. And 66%, 2/3 of that, were girls. So dropout is a severe risk if these pressures on health and well-being issues, on gender-based violence, an unintended pregnancy occurs, an HIV infection occurs, dropout is usually the first refuge. But if the learner stays, the concentration is of course affected. The learning is not efficient. The second way in which it affects quality of education is the issue of enrollment. So we did some work on TVET colleges in Malawi, for instance, in Tanzania, in Zimbabwe. And we were shocked by the extent of gender-based violence there. Now, TVET, technical and vocational education and training, is already a male-dominated sector, and also the TVET schools and the polytechnics are male-dominated. And here you get the chicken and the egg question. When there is a low percent of female students, you have by default a more dangerous environment. So do female students not join? And therefore we have these low percentages of female participation because it is a dangerous place. Or is it the other way around? They join, it is dangerous, and they drop out. So it is a chicken and an egg question. So that is the importance of addressing these issues and the relation to quality education.
All right. Professor Joko, we talked about the cultural aspect to all of this. People coming from different backgrounds when they come into the University of Nairobi. For a lot of people, it's even the first time they've set foot in the capital. How much of an impact do we expect these programs to have in a period of 4 years? I mean, if you come from a culture where women have no voice, and here I am in university and I'm meeting these very outspoken women, and so how much of an impact can we have on the he for she in the context of university education?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and it's not a simple, it doesn't have a simple answer. There are a lot of interactions at University of Nairobi and other universities for that matter. So I'm more familiar with the university where I work, which is University of Nairobi. But university students encounter can be a very rich experience. It shouldn't be that it is viewed negatively all the time. It's a very rich experience. And what O3 is bringing, the first one is our rights. I think one of the interactions that is a problem is like for the female students when they don't know their right. When you start accepting things, because that is what you grew up seeing, that is what probably your mother was battered by your father, your aunties were battered by your uncle. So it's a natural thing. And then you have a friend who is battered by the boyfriend, and so you take it as an accepted thing. So even in the RADA app, what we want to do, as we said, is to provide information. One of the things that we do is to tell you, no, it's not a right thing. You shouldn't accept it. In the O3, the first thing is your right. Your right as a woman, your right as a student, your right as a human being. Nobody should demean you, degrade you, make a doormat out of you. So you know that it is not acceptable, it is not okay. So I think education is the key thing in changing a lot of all these things. And then one of the things that I forgot to mention, but was mentioned by Charlotte as well, is the issue of counseling and being linked up with counselors. So what the RADA app does, for example, is you can connect to a counselor anytime, in confidence, in private. You can chat without the counselor actually even knowing who the student is. You can pass all your information to them, the struggles you are going through. So it gives you another room for expressing yourself without fear of your confidentiality being broken, without people looking down on you because you are the girl who is always crying because of the issues of gender-based violence or whatever else it is. So it gives you a room, a space that is not always available. So the use of the app, for example, has created that. And so the other forum as well, we at many universities have deans of students who can also, in addition to addressing academic issues, there's also another layer of counseling and getting support. So I think the connectivity between university students amongst themselves and amongst the professional caregivers, like the counselors and the deans of students, becomes a very good blend in addressing their issues.
Okay, and thank you for introducing Ms. Thuo. As the Deputy Dean, Ms. Thuo, we've had a lot of social commentary on Sponyos and Kukula Fair. You know, how much of these are risk factors? Is it something that we should discuss in the context of this conversation?
This is a very, very hot area. It's a hot coal to touch. But I want to begin by saying that whatever we find in higher institution of learning is basically what we find in society. And the Sponyo sponsorship manenos, if I would call them, they are not only in the higher institution of learning, they are actually in our society. And in Africa, actually, we find it in different names. Like you find a country like Uganda, they are still calling it sugar daddies. The others that call it benefactors. They have given them different names. But I would say that these days, it's not just the men who are sponsors. We also have women who are sponsors. And this is a case whereby we want to live a life that we cannot afford. And this is brought about by, especially the social media, the gram. Some of us are so not much into the gram, but we have the students who tell us what is happening in the gram. You want to post those good photos. You want to have your birthday with your girlfriends in a yacht, and because you cannot afford, and your parents cannot afford to take you for that birthday in Malindi or in Mombasa, what do? There is this person who is willing to sponsor you. So what happens and what does this person need from you? It's basically an exchange of, yeah, you get what you want, I give you money, and in exchange for sex. And this is becoming very paramount, and it is worrying. And I would say that it is not just a problem we can be able to address alone as high institution of learning. It is a problem that should be addressed.
Oh dear, my mitambo tonight are letting me down. All right, Ms. Thuo, I'll let you finish up as part of your final remarks. Hopefully we can get her back up quickly. Charlotte, as part of your parting remarks, do tell us what do you envision, or what are you optimistic, what difference are you optimistic O3 Plus will make?
Olive, previously you had asked me about mental health. I'm very passionate about mental health. So before I give out my parting shot, I would like to mention something on mental health.
Quickly then, quickly.
On mental health, we should eradicate the fact that there's that stigmatization whereby people are always told, people are always stigmatized when someone has a problem, anything to do with mental health. First of all, it should be told outside there that it is okay not to be okay.
Can she just close the window that popped up and then continue? Oh, my apologies for that. All right, Professor Hubert. We'll get the two ladies back up. No need to panic. But Professor Hubert, how would you view, as part of your parting remarks, what would be your benchmark to look back and say, once the project is launched on Thursday next week, that this has been a success?
Yeah, success is simply measured by impact, and impact can be measured. So what it is about is to establish a very solid baseline in all these participating universities as to what is the situation today. Many indicators, look at indicators relating to all the issues, gender-based violence, new HIV infections, early unintended pregnancies, mental health issues as well. So indicators, have a wide set of indicators, the baseline for that, the monitoring for that over time, and then you can measure result. I would say the ultimate result is the end user. It's the students themselves. The proof of the pudding is always in the eating, and therefore, how do students feel about it? And monitor also that. You can think of indicators that relate, for instance, to students' satisfaction about their university, about their studies, about the facilities, about their well-being, their health condition, and the way they're taken care of, and the way they see ways to address issues. Okay. So the student satisfaction. The last impact would be that we create via this program a new model that can be disseminated to all tertiary and higher education institutions.
Okay. All right, Professor Joko, I'll give you 30 seconds each now. So Professor Joko, what would you consider a success at the end of this project?
As has been indicated, for me, it is the number. So, for example, when we see the numbers of infection, we always do what we call a national, for example, HIV indicator survey. When we start seeing the numbers dropping, my dream is one day we'll be talking of 0 infections among our university students. As for that is for HIV/AIDS, pregnancies that are unintended pregnancies amongst our university students, less gender-based violence. And you see, we can be able to quantify this as Prof has indicated. So we can be able to look at before O3 and after O3 and compare. Actually, one of the things that we've done is a baseline survey. And so we'll be able to, after the end of the program, we'll be able to compare and say, what were the numbers before and what are the numbers now?
Great. Professor, sorry, Ms. Thuo, I know you're working on your PhD, so I keep wanting to call you Professor. Ms. Thuo, you're parting short, 30 seconds?
Okay, thank you. I lost you earlier, but what I would say is that we are really looking forward to the launch of the O3 Plus that is on 30th next week. who will be there with our students so that we can see how far we can go with the promotion of the O3s. And we know that by the time that program is done, we'll have reached so many students and we'll have been able to transform their lives positively. And I know that we have the support of even the management from the Mount Kenya University.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Thuo. Finally, Wairimu, finish up for us.
I would like to see this initiative going further into educating students at the university, whereby the UNESCO will even enter in our courses, whereby it will be easier for us to study them. You know, when it's easy for you, it's hard for you to unlearn whatever you have learned. So when this initiative is incorporated into education and it creates a good learning environment for our fellow students back at the university, then it will be okay, whereby we'll be safeguarding the future generations of this country. You know, the youths are the future generation of this country. So if you teach me something, I'll be able to teach the next one, and the next one will be able to teach the next one. So we're actually safeguarding this country. And I'm very proud of UNESCO. They're bringing a good initiative whereby the students, they're able to enforce it at the universities with the way the students actually want it.
All right, thank you very much, Charlotte. I've had Professor Hubert Hazen in studio, Professor Walter Joko of the Kenya AIDS Vaccine Initiative. He is the director there. That is University of Nairobi. Purity Thuo, who is the Deputy Dean of Students, Mount Kenya University. And last but definitely never least, Charlotte Wairimu Ruto, who is a student advocate from the University of Nairobi. So that project launches next week and concludes after a year, or?
The project runs for 3 years, I believe.
2 years. All right, there you have it. I've been your host, Olive Burrows. Do stay tuned to NTV.